In this chapter, we're going to demonstrate how to combine Python CGI and form handling with a database. In other words, how to generate dynamic web content using SQLite as a database to store data. So the first thing we want to do in the first lesson is demonstrate just how to connect to a database and display data. So we're going to use the films database that we created back in chapter 4, and we're going to write a very simple script to display rows of data from that films database or from the films table. So let's get started. We're going to call this program display films. We're going to abbreviate display dispfilms.py. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and import some libraries that we might need later on. We're not going to use them in this program, but I want to go ahead and get in the habit of putting them in there because we might need them later. So CGI, OS, and sys. We actually do need the sys library. And then of course we need the SQLite 3 library in order to connect to the database. So this program has to do two things: connect to the database and retrieve data from the table. And we also have to display that data on a web page. So we'll start off by first of all performing all the database work that we need to do. So the first thing to do is connect to the database, create a cursor so we can retrieve our data, set the row factory so that we retrieve rows using indices, all things we did in chapter 4. Execute our SQL statement and retrieve the rows into our rows variable. Now we're ready to write out the data. So we write out our content type header first. Then we need to write out a blank line. Then we begin generating our HTML, so we need an HTML tag, body tag, and a paragraph tag. Now we're going to display the data in simple terms, so we're just going to write for row and rows, and then write out a format string. We'll use numbers rather than field names, just to keep it simple. Made a mistake in the sign right up here. Let's fix that real quick. And let's write a break so that between row we'll get a new line. And that's all we need to generate the content from the database. So now we're ready to wrap up our HTML. So we close the paragraph, close the body, and close HTML. Save the file. Now to test this, we're going to have to do a couple of things. First thing we need to do is start our CGI HTTP server. So in one window at Python 27, start the server. Now it's running. CGI bin is fine. Now start a browser and type localhost 8000, CGI bin, displayfilms.py, and there's the data. So as you can see, it was very, very simple to connect a web form or a web page to a database using Python. Again, here's the script, and it's really just a combination of the things that we've already done, both for our CGI programming chapter and our earlier database chapter as well. So now we're ready to move on to the next lesson, where we're going to complicate things just a little bit by, rather than just displaying the data in a page, let's put it into text boxes in a form so that the output is a little bit more structured, and then we could also maybe make some changes and things to the data. So in the next lesson, we're going to see how to display database data in a form-based web page.